You have been in a room with someone who changed the atmosphere the moment they walked in. They said nothing, they did nothing extraordinary, but something shifted. The other people in the room noticed. Conversations adjusted, eyes moved. Space was made, not because it was demanded, but because it was simply assumed by the person who entered. You have also been in a room and felt the opposite. You have walked through a door and felt yourself shrink. Felt your voice arrive quieter than you intended. Felt your eyes drop before anyone challenged them. Felt yourself become slightly less than what you were before you entered. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Neither of those people was born that way. The samurai understood something about human presence that most modern psychology is only now beginning to confirm. Presence is not a feeling. It is not confidence stored somewhere inside you, waiting to be unlocked by the right affirmation or the right morning routine. Presence is a physical practice. It lives in the body. It is built through specific, repeatable actions. And once you understand the 5 rules the samurai used to cultivate it, rules that governed how they moved, where they looked, how they breathed, how they occupied space, you will never carry yourself the same way again. In the early 17th century, a swordsman named Yagyu Munenori was appointed as sword instructor to the Tokugawa shogunate, the most powerful military government in Japanese history. He was not chosen because he was the most technically gifted swordsman in Japan. There were those who could match his blade work. He was chosen because of something else. When Yagyu Munenori entered a room, any room, things changed. Generals who had faced death without flinching became attentive. Warlords who commanded thousands fell quiet, not out of ceremony, out of something they could not fully name. A young student once asked him directly. He said, "Master, I have studied your technique for 3 years. I have not found the secret. What do you do that we cannot?" Yagyu looked at him for a long moment. "You are still trying to carry yourself," he said. "A man who tries to carry himself is always heavy. I stopped trying many years ago. Now I simply am." The student did not understand. Not yet. But Yagyu spent the next hour teaching him 5 things. Not techniques of the sword, techniques of the body. Ways of occupying the world that the samurai had been refining for centuries. Those 5 things are what this video is about. The first rule is called Fudoshin. Translated literally, it means the immovable mind. But the samurai did not apply it only to thought. They applied it to the body. Watch how most people respond when something unexpected happens in a social situation. A comment lands unexpectedly. An awkward silence falls. A challenge arrives from across the table. The body moves before the mind catches up. A flinch, a shift in the seat, eyes darting away, a nervous laugh. These micro-reactions are not just emotional leakage. They are signals that read instantly and universally as instability. Fudoshin is the practice of the 3-second pause before you respond to anything that provokes you. A question, an accusation, a compliment, a criticism. You do not move for 3 full seconds. Not frozen, not tense. Simply still. The samurai trained this because they knew that the warrior who reacts first is usually the one who dies. But they also knew something more relevant to your daily life. The person who is most still in a charged moment is the person who is most still in a charged moment is the person everyone else unconsciously looks to. Try it today. In your next difficult conversation, resist the first impulse to respond. Let the silence hold for 3 seconds. What you will find is that your stillness communicates more than your words were going to. The second rule is ma. It is one of the most important concepts in all of Japanese culture and one of the least understood by people outside of it. Ma means negative space, the pause between notes, the silence between words, the gap between breaths. In traditional Japanese architecture, the empty room is as important as the furnished one. In Japanese music, the silence is as intentional as the sound. The samurai brought this same principle to the way they spoke and moved. Most people are afraid of silence. They fill it immediately, nervously, often with something they will later wish they had not said. Watch someone who has lost control of a conversation. They talk faster. They interrupt themselves. They add qualifiers. I mean, kind of, sort of, as though they are apologizing for the space their words are taking up. Now watch someone who commands a room. They speak and then they stop. Completely, they let the silence exist without rushing to cover it. And in that silence, the room leans toward them. The practice of Ma is simple and profoundly uncomfortable at first. Before you speak, pause. After you finish a sentence, pause before starting the next one. When someone asks you a question, pause before answering, even if you already know the answer. The pause does two things simultaneously. It makes what you say next feel considered and intentional, and it signals to every person in the room that you are not afraid of the silence. That is rarer than you think. The third rule is Metsuke. It is usually translated as eye contact, but that translation loses something essential. Metsuke does not mean staring. It does not mean the hard, locked gaze of someone trying to dominate a room. That kind of eye contact is aggression, and people feel it immediately as a challenge rather than a presence. Metsuke means the soft gaze. The samurai trained to look at an opponent the way you look at a distant mountain, taking in the whole without fixing on any single point. The eyes that dart are the eyes of a hunted animal. The eyes that lock too hard are the eyes of a threatened one. Neither belongs to someone who carries themselves with authority. Metsuke is the third way. It is a gaze that is relaxed, present, and unhurried. It takes in the whole person, not just the eyes, not just the face, and rests there with a quality of genuine attention rather than performance. The practice is this. In your next conversation, resist the habit of looking away when you feel uncomfortable. Do not stare, but do not retreat. Soften your eyes. Take in the whole person. Let your gaze communicate that you are here, that you are unhurried, and that nothing they can say or do is going to move you from this moment. You will feel the conversation change. The fourth rule is Hara. In Japanese philosophy and martial practice, Hara refers to the body's center, located approximately 3 finger widths below the navel, deep inside the lower abdomen. Every major Japanese discipline, swordsmanship, archery, Zen meditation, traditional theater, begins from this point. In the West, we tend to hold our presence in the chest or the head. We puff up the chest to signal strength. We tighten the shoulders when we feel threatened. We carry anxiety in the jaw, the neck, the upper back. The samurai considered this a fundamental physical error. A person whose presence lives in the upper body is unstable. Pull them slightly off balance, physically or psychologically, and they will topple. A person rooted in the Hara is different. Their weight is low, their breathing is deep, their stillness has gravity to it. The practice is this. Right now, wherever you are sitting or standing, drop your attention to the point below your navel. Take a breath that expands the lower abdomen rather than the chest. Feel the weight of your body sink slightly downward rather than rise upward. This is not mysticism. It is physics. A lower center of gravity is harder to disturb. Do this before any high-stakes situation, a meeting, a difficult conversation, a public appearance. You will notice that your voice drops slightly, your movement slow, and something in the room shifts without you doing anything else at all. The fifth rule is Zanshin, and it may be the most important of all. Zanshin translates as the remaining mind. After a samurai completed a technique, a strike, a cut, a draw, they did not relax. They maintained a state of sustained, complete awareness, total presence that lingered after the action was finished. They applied this not just to combat, but to every interaction, every meal, every conversation, every walk across a courtyard. Zanshin is the opposite of the way most people move through the world. Most of us are partially present at best. We are in a conversation but composing our next point while the other person is still speaking. We are at a dinner but reading a notification under the table. We finish a task and immediately reach for the next distraction, and people feel this. They may not name it, but they know when someone is fully with them and when someone is not, and they treat those two experiences completely differently. The person who makes you feel fully seen, who asks questions and actually waits for the answer, who finishes a conversation before reaching for their phone, who looks at you like the room does not contain anything more interesting than this exchange. That person carries something almost no one carries anymore. Full presence is power, and it costs nothing except the willingness to actually be here. The practice: choose one interaction each day to give your complete, undivided Zanshin, not a performance of attention, actual attention. Eyes on the person, no mental composing, no anticipating, just here, in this moment, with this human being. You will feel uncomfortable. We are not used to it. But the person across from you will feel something they rarely feel, and they will remember you for it. I want to be honest with you about something. When I first encountered these 5 principles, I did not believe they would matter. I was looking for something bigger, something more dramatic, a transformation that would announce itself. What I found instead was quieter and stranger. The first time I held Fudoshin in a difficult conversation, I felt the room shift before I said a word. The first time I let Ma exist in a silence that I would normally have rushed to fill. The person across from me leaned forward. Small things, physical things, things that had nothing to do with how I felt and everything to do with what I did. Yagyo Munenori's student eventually understood what his teacher meant. He had been trying to carry himself, to assemble presence like a piece of armor he could put on each morning. But presence is not armor. It is not performance. It is what remains when you stop trying to be seen and simply become someone who is fully here. Fudoshin, Ma, Metsuke, Hara, Zanshin. 5 rules. Each one a decision you can make with your body right now. Not tomorrow. Not after the next achievement or the next version of yourself you are waiting to become. Now. In the body you already have. In the room you are already in. I want to ask you something before you go. Of these 5 rules, which one do you think would change the most for you if you actually practiced it consistently? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and if this video reached you, if something in it landed, consider sharing it with one person who might need it today. I will see you in the next one.